In a 5-year study done with almost 1,000 children and teenagers, it found that children who had a mentor in their life were more confident in their academic abilities and considerably less likely to display behavioral problems. And girls were 4 times less likely to bully, fight, lie, or express anger than girls without a mentor. Yeah, so you can only imagine the impact of a mentor would have in a child's life that has grown up in a marginalized group in our society. Well, our guests today have made a concerted effort to mentor Black Canadian young people, and they see the church as having an important role in this. We are joined by Len Carby, and he is the chair of the Black Community Advisory Council and a member of Kanisa Church. And Tobin Cooper is the director of Kanisa Lions Pathfinder Club, a youth program in Toronto. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
So tell us a little bit more about this Pathfinder group, Tobin.
Okay, well, the Pathfinder group is...
and this explains
how
you're dressed today.
Explain how I'm dressed
It's
today.
not usually how you roll. This is
No, I don't usually go on the street like this.
Yeah. You
This
look
is
good, though.
only
You look good,
Thank
though.
you. This
Yeah.
is only for special occasions. This is our Type A uniform, we call it, a dress uniform. And Pathfinders is actually a very large organization. It's worldwide. There are 2 million members around the world. And in Ontario, there's about 3,000. And in our church, we have about 20 to 30 every year that pass through our program. And it's targeted for the ages between ages 10 and 16. Okay. And we cover a wide variety of skills and learning for young people.
So looking at you, it looks like Scouts. Is it like Scouts?
Yeah, it's almost like Scouts, but
Would it be different in some ways, though?
Yeah, it's co-ed.
Okay.
And
cool.
And our goal is to get kids to love God. That's our
You
goal.
said that quietly.
Well,
Your goal is to get
that's our
people
goal.
to know Jesus.
We have a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun doing it. And so they don't realize that as we have fun and as we teach them new things, they get closer and closer to Christ. And I'm happy to say that almost 70% of our kids get baptized.
Wow.
They give their lives to Christ.
Now, what's the connection to the church? And first, tell me about the name, because that's a cool name for a church. I have not heard that one before.
Kanisa Fellowship.
Yeah, so what's the root of it?
It's part of the Seventh-day Adventist church community. We called it that. The church was formed about 13 years ago, and it's a Swahili word that actually means place of worship.
Wow.
Cool.
And so it's just the local name for our congregation,
I love it.
but we're part of a much larger organization. I was involved 13 years ago when the chapter was started in Toronto.
Cool.
Right now our membership is just about 230 and growing.
Awesome.
And of that, we have so many kids that we have as part of our community.
So why this program as opposed to a classic kids ministry program? What was special about this program that got you guys to decide, yeah, we're gonna do this, we're gonna get behind this?
Part of it is the structure, right? It is part of the larger church community. Like Tobin mentioned, there are nearly 2 million Pathfinders across the world. And because the curriculum is designed, and many of the programs and things that they work on are already created. So the structure that is already there. So we figured, why not just plug into something that already exists, and it's supported by a worldwide church anyway.
And tell us how you've seen young people's lives change through this program, Tobin.
Well, what's interesting is that we, as an example, we have a strong focus on outdoor leadership, outdoor skills. And a lot of children, they would come to the program, they've never gone camping before, for example. They've never built a fire.
For real?
They've never gone
I've
hiking.
never built a fire.
Oh, come on.
I haven't.
You need to go to this
I
group.
need to come to
You
this
can't
group.
visit.
Group.
I bet you you've never built a fire without matches.
I've never built a fire, period.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So
Wow.
so you've never built a fire and you've never cooked over a fire that you've built.
I've never built a fire, period.
So that's one of the things that we teach about, and so it's a very comprehensive program. So we deal with spiritual ideas, spiritual concepts. We teach a lot about the Bible, and we teach about relationships and about how we as Christians are to live in this world and to share Christ with others, right? And then finally, there's the whole outdoor component where we take kids into nature and they get to learn about God and by seeing His creation. So
I could just imagine, like myself,
Yeah.
an urban kid, right? Grew up in Toronto,
Right.
and then you take them out into the wilderness. What is that like when they see, wow, like there's this whole other world out there?
right, it's amazing the transformation that comes over these kids by being outside.
Yeah.
Can I ask an obvious question? At least it's obvious to me. Is there a socioeconomic factor at play here sometimes with these kids. And you also said urban kids. And so I'm saying, are we saying, but not saying, like, are there children from the black community for whom this would be more normative to have not experienced that kind of thing, or from the urban community, or from, is that a factor here?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right, I'm so relieved. If I asked the question and you said no, then I feel really terrible. So this is a factor.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and our church population is predominantly black, and many of these kids, like you rightly said, have never experienced anything like this, with the urban environment in which they grew up. So showing them a little bit of nature and what, the wonders of God's creation, I think is just phenomenal. It always, you just see the excitement in their eyes. They always see me come to church, and very often I'm in my suit and stuff at church. But I went to Camporee with them, and it was for many of them it was the first time they're seeing Elder Len without his suit. But that was fantastic. That was great. Hanging out with the kids and getting to know them really, because we believe that providing leadership and mentorship for these kids is not just about the spiritual, but also, the social and their physical.
When it comes to mentors, would you say that, as a general statement, you have lots of mentors for these kids, or as a general statement, perhaps many of these kids could use a mentor? Would you say, on which side of the spectrum would we land in most cases?
I think these kids could use mentor.
Okay.
They could use mentoring. And the Pathfinder Club provides a platform for that. Our church is very involved with the young people. We have a very, very strong connection between the youth and the other adults in church. But Pathfinders is a little bit more of a specialized program in that there's a lot more one-on-one time with children. We have small classes in essence, where they get to interact with a teacher, for quite a few hours, with maybe like 1-to-5 ratios type thing. So.
And talk to us a little bit more about the community. So you're in Peel region. Is that kind of the area that you're in, or?
No, I live in Peel, but the church is actually in Toronto.
Okay, so even more. So when we talk about Toronto and we talk about the issues at hand that we see with the black community, how important is it for the church? And when I say the church, I'm not just talking about the black church, because when I speak about the church, I'm talking about the church as a whole. How important is it that we pour into young people, especially when we talk about a marginalized community like our black community, and saying, okay, we see this as the church feeding into this and seeing that the church is the response to solving some of these problems.
Right. The truth is, I was sharing with Tobin earlier that I was just reading the word last night from Matthew chapter 25 when Christ was talking about the identifiers of those who are part of the kingdom. When he says, "Come ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom, because when I was hungry, you fed me, because when I was thirsty, you gave me drink, when I was sick and in hospital and in prison, you came and visited me." And so the catering to people's real needs is just as important, as their spiritual. And so the church, I think, has an important role to play in meeting the needs in society as a whole, but more specifically these kids who are, bombarded by so many issues, whether it is feeling isolated, whether it's, the pressures to be involved in drugs and alcohol, whether it is, parents who are busy trying to make ends meet, financially, who don't have the time to spend with their kids, and that leads to things like isolation and loneliness and just all of those challenges that these kids face. They need support.
Yeah.
And that's what the church, I think,
when
is
Maggie
there for.
refers to the black community as a marginalized community, let me ask the question, the elephant in the room, the one white guy in the panel, is the black community in Canada still marginalized? And if so, how is that manifesting in the lives of the kids that you work with? Because you don't hear that much, right? We say we're a diverse country. We're no racism here. Come on, man.
Yeah.
So is this still a factor?
It absolutely is.
So how does it show up?
In fact, as in my role as the chair of the Black Advisory Council for Peel United Way, I've been involved in various studies which have been done over in Peel, but the same thing has been done in Toronto that speaks to, the marginalization of black youth. The Peel Public School Board recently also did a study that demonstrated that these kids feel isolated. They feel that the expectation is lower for them, and they feel this even coming from teachers. Yeah. And so there is a significant move to try and talk to these kids a little bit more, to do more
Sure.
listening about how they feel, their interaction with the school system, with the police, with other institutions. How is that happening so that they can feel included in society as a whole?
On top of that, the Ontario Human Rights Commission just released a report as well talking about the marginalization, not just of the Black community, but of other racialized communities in our province. You know, this is an important question, or important topic, and we're running out of time. But I think there are many people, Todd, who would see, you know, issues of race and think, oh, it's not my problem. Oh, well, it's another community's problem. So, in the few minutes that we have left, Tobin, explain why this needs to be an issue that we all deal with when it comes to pouring into the next generation, saying, this is our issue. We need to take control of this.
You know, there's a really interesting part in this in the story of Christ, where there were some children hanging around, and the disciples were like, "Oh, get out of here! These kids, what are they doing?" And Christ said, "Whoa. Bring those children to me." And the children were drawn to Christ. And as mentors, as adults, as the body of Christ, our job is to bring children to Christ. And that's what we're that's the goal of our program.
Well said. Well, thank you both, gentlemen, for joining us today.
Yeah, great to spend some time with you. Thanks for sharing your story.
Thanks for
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Good
It's a
stuff.
pleasure.